Welcome back to the Puck Bunker, episode 4. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host Darren Boyce. Boycer, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Rocco?
Good. Excited to dive into it. We got 4 guys lined up today that we're gonna dive into it and chat about and much like last episode, there are 4 guys that are rated A by NHL Central Scouting. So we're going to continue on that theme and cover some 4 more of the top players in the draft. And um, we've got 4 guys lined up today, 2 defensemen and 2 forwards. And I'd like to start on the back end with someone that Darren and I have both been watching really since the Halinka tournament this summer, where he was quite good for Team USA, and best defenseman of the WHL, Blake Fiddler. Darren, floor is all yours.
You want me to go now? All right. Uh, Blake Fiddler, he's born in July of 2007. So again, he's pretty young for this draft class. He's 6'4", 210 pounds, and he's currently playing for the Edmonton Oil Kings. And right now, he's played 15 games, and he has 3 goals, 4 assists, and 7 points, and he's +5. So I mean, he's doing all right. In terms of his scouting report and going over the games that we've watched, a couple of conclusions we've come to. First of all, his positives. I actually didn't mind his skating for a big. He is a right-hand shot defenseman. I actually liked his skating for his size. His decent straight line speed. He could actually beat guys once he got going. His pivots were pretty good. He was pretty decent backward. And again, considering his size, that's really good to see. He couldn't maybe improve his side to side, but he's mobile enough. I think that could play at the next level. The way he skated, defensively, he's very. I thought he was pretty good that way as well. Maintains good gaps, has a long stick. He's a presence, especially on a rush. He was forcing guys to go offside on more than one occasion on the games that we watched. He's pretty responsible and conservative. He's not going to, jump out of position very often. And he was good at recovering if he ever did get caught. Doesn't pinch a lot. So again, he's going to be pretty responsible and break up plays and, get the puck back for your team. His compete was pretty good. He battles with his opponents. He's willing to battle in, tough areas. Wouldn't say he was high motorish per se, but he was always battling out there. He's willing to engage in that type of stuff, willing to be physical, and did have the ability to outmuscle a lot of guys, especially at his age, which is pretty impressive at 17. But he's not actively looking to hammer guys. He'll do it, but he's not going to go out of his way. And I think that's reflective as kind of his penalty minute totals, which I think last year he only had 12 minutes in penalties. So he's not going to take a ton of penalties. So that's kind of reflective. He's not going to, go blow up guys. Now on the downside, or things that he does need to improve on, overall, I would say his weakest skill set might be his passing and playmaking. He can make the simple passes. However, when he's under pressure, he gets pretty tunnel visioned. He won't make the right play if he's pressured, I guess. He'll miss opportunities, to get the puck out or make simple plays like chips or flips, just because he has a little slow to react. And he also struggles a bit when he's on his backhand, so he won't force things on that hand, and he actually tries to go to his forehand, which, again, gets him in trouble. In terms of his offensive hockey sense, I mean, again, he's a bit late on decision-making. He's probably not going to be a big power play guy, especially in the pros. In terms of his offense, he's not really going to make, when he's rushing the puck, he's not going to make maybe offensive plays for others, but he does actually, he's very good at kind of skating towards the net. So he'll more likely make a strong move towards the net than make a pass to one of his teammates per se. So that could be good or bad. I mean, not a lot of defensemen do that. So that could actually be a positive, in the future, that way that he's willing to make strong moves to the net. And as I said, again, his shot's not great. He there is some trouble getting it off, he misses targets a lot. But he also has learned that he should get, a low hard shot to goal. I think he realizes he's not going to score a lot with his normal shot. So again, just getting a shot through is, beneficial for him. And I think he has figured that out. So overall, I mean, he's a large, right-hand shot defenseman who can skate. So I think that right there entails that he will be a first-round pick just because he has those skills. I mean, he does have an ability to shut down other players. Even his underlying stats are actually quite decent. I mean, he's a positive Corsi player. His expected goals for and against are not terrible. I mean, they're probably pretty even, I would say. So, I mean, as a 17-year-old in the WHL, and he's not on an elite team, he's on a pretty decent team. I mean, there's something here. I believe he's ranked around maybe 15 to 20 in a lot of lists. I mean, I could see why teams are interested. I'm a little more hesitant. I'm worried about, his ability to break out a puck and, his offensive side of the game. But I believe that, a team would take him probably around there. I think that's probably realistic. But it'll be interesting to kind of compare him to some of the other guys we've looked at. Guys like Merca and Atchison, those type of guys, especially when our lists come out. I think that would be, an interesting comparison, especially Merca, who, if people don't know, he's coming to the WHL. He's going to, play there. I think he's going to be for Seattle, but I'm not entirely sure. I have to, again, get that, remember which team he is playing for, but he is coming to the WHL. So I'll be interested to see how he, those two would kind of pair up, because it kind of have some similar flaws. So I don't know what you saw, Rocco, but yeah, go ahead.
From what I watched, I think I like him a little bit better than you do. I don't have many doubts here that this kid's going to be an NHL player. And when you don't have a ton of doubt that he's going to play in the league, and he's a big right-handed defenseman, which I do believe personally that's probably the hardest position to fill in hockey at the moment is a quality right-handed defenseman. So based on that alone, he's worth a first-round pick. Now, you said earlier in your analysis that based on the fact that he's a plus size right-hand D that can skate, that probably makes him a first rounder. But there was two guys last year in Dominic Bedinka and Charlie Ellick who both ended up falling out of the first round. But Bedinka I thought should have been. I had him. I think 18 or 20.
You had him well. You had him well in the first round.
I had him well in the first round. But if he becomes an everyday player as a right-hand defenseman who's big and can skate, then he should be well in the first round, right? So that's kind of where I'm basing those. But to what you were getting at, it's not 100% that just because of those two things that he's going to be a first rounder. Now, those other two guys both end up being two of the very first picks in the second round. Bedinka went the very first pick or second pick of the second round, I think, and Alec went very shortly after. But they don't drop far, even when they do drop. And I have similar questions about what Fiddler projects to as a in terms of his role in the NHL. But this is Fiddler. You're gonna familiar with the name as Vern Fiddler, who played for a really long time in the league and was a really good player. I remember especially being quite effective with Dallas in his prime. He was a really, really hard guy to play against. And I see a lot of those traits passed down from father to son. And, we talk about this pretty openly. We all have our biases when it comes to scouting, and bloodlines for me is one thing that I really do believe is important. There's certain advantages that come growing up, not just around hockey, but around the NHL environment. There's certain advantages that come with that for young players that you just, it's priceless time around pros and coaches and guys. You're all the guys that play in the NHL. You're a kid. You soak that all in your whole life, and you do learn pro habits and you play a pro style game. Look at most guys who had dads that played. They play very, very sound and advanced games for the most part. And I think with Blake, it's no different, and that does provide him a leg up. And I thought he was fantastic at the Hlinka, and the U.S. at the Hlinka. They don't send their best. They don't send their best team, right? They send their best team from outside of their national team development program, right? Which ends up being a lot of CHL and NCAA guys, and typically maybe a lot of smaller guys and that sort of thing. But on a team that didn't necessarily have a ton of big names, he actually stepped up and played a bit more of an offensive role for them. And to me, that showed a little versatility that maybe we haven't necessarily seen as much in the WHL so far.
Yeah, I mean, if you do look at his points in that tournament, though, they're not really. I wouldn't say they're really from him fully creating most of them. I mean, but again, he's winning pucks and getting them to teammates, right?
Well,
Like that.
you see, he was starting. He did a really good job, I think, in that tournament, starting the playoff and
Yeah.
jumping and being the fourth man in on the attack and supporting his guys in that sense and making good decisions and when to pinch. And a secondary assist from a well-timed pinch or a well-timed middle lane drive is that's as good as any.
Well, he's definitely good at getting the puck. Like he can get the puck in the defensive zone. He can win back possession. And
That's
he was
huge.
doing that. He was doing that in that tournament, and he's doing that in junior. I mean, my only issue is once he gets the puck, what he kind of does with it. He's not, as of right now, he's not making the right, proper decisions all the time. There's a little inconsistency there. That can obviously be improved. He's 17 years old. He's quite young. And if you already have that ability at 6'4" to outmuscle your peers and to, he can, stops chances very, very well. He's very good at that. I mean, that if he can learn, to make the simple plays, make a good first pass, not kind of fumble pucks around, he can be a really good player. I don't know if I don't think he's ever going to be maybe a 40-point guy, but he can be a very valuable player on a very good NHL team.
Yeah, and I don't
Definitely a
think you're drafting him.
possibility.
I don't think you're drafting him in the hopes that he becomes a 40-point guy, anyways.
No, I don't think he would be, but
He's not going now at the junior level. Like all of these guys, they spend a lot more time with the puck than he will at the NHL level. So I don't know that he's going to be asked to do the amount of puck moving again that he is right now, right? And the other thing with that too is, like you said, it can be coached, and I do think he has pretty good hockey sense for the most part, especially defensively. He reads the game super well. So he's obviously a smart player. So again, we mention this all the time. Everyone has things to work on, and if he needs to become a guy to be his most effective, that becomes a bit of a one touch player with the puck at the NHL level. Where it's help your team get the puck back, one touch it to a guy, and you know what I mean, and help transition the puck up the ice. I think he could end up being a very, very effective player in that role, especially because he can move his feet. So you could pair him with someone who's a little more adept with the puck handling.
And it might also be too kind of learning what his offensive skill set actually is, because I kind of see he's more like a power guy. He's not really, a finesse defenseman, right? Like he can kind of no, but if he rushes the puck, he can kind of outmuscle guys. If he, kind of goes to the outside on guys, he can kind of muscle guys. It's like kind of like I don't even know how to compare that, but it's like kind of like he's a forward, right? Like he can kind of be like a power forward that way. Like he kind of does that. Whereas like most defensemen we watch are kind of
when he
making a finesse play, right? Like he's not really doing that.
No, but when you're right though, when he gets ahead of steam behind him, he's tough. He's tough to handle. But like, I mean, it's also junior. I don't know that he's going to be able to knock guys off him the way he does at the NHL level. But again, you're not drafting this player in the hopes that he becomes a 40, 50, 60-point defenseman. I think what you're looking for is a guy that can play on one of your top two pairings, maybe with a guy who's maybe a bit of a smaller puck mover, for example, and be a really, really effective and intimidating defensive presence. I think there's some toughness to this player here. I don't think when he's in his mid-20s, I really don't think he's going to be very much fun to play against. And I think that's the role that you're probably drafting him and wanting him to be in. But they're really guys that can play that role are very, very, very valuable when it comes to the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Like this is the type of guy that, again, if he turns out, would be a pretty valuable piece on a late playoff team. I think that would be, which is the whole point, right? I mean, teams want to win. So I mean that's why I say there'd be a lot of teams probably interested around, 15 to 20, even if I have some questions about him. I would assume that teams would probably value him a little bit higher than I would, just because
And
of that.
look at guys like Juracek last year spent most of the season injured, hardly played, put up almost no points, but he's a big right-handed D who can skate, and he was 16, whatever he was, mid first round pick, I think maybe 16th or something. So like that's where these guys, that's where they end up going, right? As long as you don't really have a lot of questions about their hockey sense, and they don't handle the puck like a grenade, I think that's a first rounder for most teams. And anywhere, like, this is a guy that's probably going to get drafted to a team that made the playoffs, would be my guess.
Yeah.
But
They'll develop him. Like they'll let him develop. Like they'll give him enough time.
Yeah, you'll have to. He's not going to play for 3 or 4 seasons, and
Yeah.
that's okay. He doesn't need to.
No, yeah. Again, a lot of these things that I talked about as flaws, I think can be worked out. Like, specifically, again, I think he struggles a little bit on his backhand. I think that can be, I think that can be taught. I think that could be, that could probably improve pretty quickly. So, yeah, I mean, I like the player. I get why teams would like him. But it'll be interesting to see what type of improvements he makes by the end of the year, and we'll see, where we rank him when our rankings come out.
So do you feel based on what you've seen so far, he's a first rounder for you?
Yeah, I like his skating. Like, I really do like the way he skates for his size. Like, I think I don't think he can drop out of the first round really with that type of skating, unless he's literally can't handle the puck, which, like, he can enough. Yeah. Like, it's not like again, I feel like his flaws, whether, I'm a little bit concerned about them, I think they can be, fixed. But again, it's some of these teams too are going to have decisions to make on some. There's a decent amount of D in this draft, and again, guys we've already kind of profiled, but a guy like Murka and Fiddler is, some teams are going to have to make a decision on which one of those guys they would like.
Well, it'll be a little easier now that if Murka's coming over to the WHL for the rest of the year. I think that's great. And this is something that actually you mentioned in, was it our first episode, that he really wasn't getting the minutes in the Czech Pro League, and I think he's obviously not challenged in the Czech Junior League. So I think for him, in a unique situation where he's clearly too good for one league but not getting the minutes to develop, I think coming over for the second half of the year. Well, I mean, it's the last 80% of the year, whatever it is. They got 50 games left in the WHL still. But him coming over, I don't think that's going to hurt his draft stock at all.
Well, and I compare those two because they were both kind of the defensemen that played really well, in the Hlinka, right? Like, they were kind of the stalwarts of the team they were on, and they looked really good. So
yeah,
I mean,
I
feel like they're kind of direct comparables.
No, they're very close. And at that point, like watching the Hlinka, at that point, Murka, to me, I liked him for sure better, and I think they're a little bit closer. I think they're a little bit closer now, especially like, what if say one of them does maybe break out a little bit offensively in the second half of the year, and maybe you think that they can become a 30+ point defenseman. Maybe that's a difference maker for some teams. But I agree. I think he's a first rounder again. To me, maybe not a guy that goes in the top. Maybe not in the top 15 as of yet. I wouldn't put him in my top 15 just yet. But I mean, in that 15 to 20 range, I think it could be a nice little sweet spot for a few of these defensemen. Once the forwards who project as true top 6 guys run through, it's probably a good place to start taking guys like this. But final word on him, and then we can move on to one of the forwards here.
Well, no, I just think again it'll be, again it's just kind of moving forward. If we can see improvements in that area, I think we can move him up. I mean, this is
Oh, it's very
some other
very
guys
early.
again. Some other guys we've profiled them a little bit more concerned about maybe some things moving forward. But I think again he's young too. That's the other thing. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
He's an 07, not an 06. So I think he's younger than a lot of the other guys we've already profiled. So there's more time as well for him to develop.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like, I mean, I don't even want to sound like the rankings that we give guys at this point of the year, like, are even going to be close to what we feel at the end of the year. Probably. I mean, the season really is still in its infancy here. We're only about a month and a half into the season, and guys are just now getting into mid-season form, right? Even at the junior level. So there's plenty of room for these guys to move up or down, and that's why we're watching them all season. So let's swing back over to the OHL now and talk about a guy. I watched this guy last year. I made a point to check out Brantford a few times so I could see Merrick Van Acker, who I was a massive fan of last year for anyone that paid attention to what I was doing. And Jake O'Brien, he's a center for Brantford. He stood out numerous times. He was actually the OHL Rookie of the Year last year, so he had obviously a very good rookie season. And I'm going to chat about him here quickly. So he's 6'2", 170-pound center for the Brantford Bulldogs. Starting the year at a moderate offensive pace, he's got 6 goals and 12 points in his first 14 games to start the season. However, I don't really feel like his counting stats have been indicative of his offensive ability that I've seen so far. I do feel like this player has some more offense than his counting totals to start the year suggest. He's a playmaker more than anything, right? And he's an excellent playmaker. But you can make all the plays in the world if the puck's not going in at the end of them, you're not going to get your assists. So I do feel like he deserves to have a few more points than he currently does. In terms of his actual physical attributes, skating wise, I think his top speed is a plus asset for him, definitely at the junior level. And he's not an elite speedster, but I do think he projects as above average at the NHL level in terms of his speed. And I do have similar feelings in terms of his quickness and agility. He does have the overall skating ability, I feel, to project safely into a team's top 6. I don't see any issues here at all, and it's something that should continue to help him throughout his career. He has a decent shot on him when he decides to use it, but I really would like to see him shoot the puck more. Despite the fact that he is a very excellent playmaker, I do think that if he shot the puck more, that would open up a lot of opportunities for him. I don't want to say very regularly, but it's not uncommon to see him pass up on a good shooting chance in favor of passing the puck. And I think when you get to the NHL level, the other team's defense are going to need to respect your shooting ability, or they're going to learn to key on you and just take away the pass. It is very hard to be an excellent playmaker if they know you're not going to shoot the puck. And guys do it. Some guys do it. I mean, Mike Ribeiro is one example. I mean, he used to get 70 assists a season, but you do need to be able to shoot the puck, and I do think he can shoot the puck, but I would like to see him use it more. Very smooth and an effective puck handler and puck carrier, especially in stride. I think he's very, very good at making one quick move, and quick is the word I'd like to focus on, because quickness when it comes to making a move in stride. If you can make a move quick, that's a big thing at the NHL level that will help you gain separation on guys, because all the D now skate so well. It's hard to gain separation. Like it's almost like an NFL wide receiver, right? Make one quick cut and you gain a little bit of space in order to make a play. And I think that's something that he's very, very good at doing. he does that without getting himself into trouble for trying to do too much. He picks his spots, and he makes one move, and he goes with it, and he handles the puck in traffic very well. So that's something that really helps him gain separation on guys. Now, he's one of probably one of the more better and creative playmakers that I've seen in this draft class for sure. I'd say he's a very high end playmaker. I mean, I don't like to throw the word elite around. I use it as little as possible, but he's a very, very high end playmaker, and he sees his teammates a lot of times before they know they're open, and he's very, very deliberate in how he attacks the defenders in order to open up his teammates. Excellent decision making in terms of what kind of mustard really to put on his passes. He does a good job. Like when it's time to zip a pass quickly, he zips it right to a guy, and when there's time to give a guy a little bit more of a touch pass to skate into space, he does have very, very good touch and very soft hands on his passes as well, and like pretty top notch. Top notch. Oh my god, I can't say that. Top notch stuff for him in terms of his overall playmaking ability and his passing ability. And again, his decision making on what to put on his passes, which is an underrated skill, I think. I like his offensive hockey sense in honestly in every aspect other than his decision making on when to shoot versus pass, which I alluded to earlier. But other than that, he does read the play very well, and it is hard to be a playmaker without reading the play in the offensive zone very well. So those go hand in hand a lot of times. So I do think this is a pretty smart player. He's very cognizant and aware of what his defensive responsibilities are, and he pays good attention to them. He gets very low in his D zone, and he helps the defenseman out, and he's often leading the breakout from behind the net. He's battling, he's helping turn pucks over, he's minding the strong side post when both D end up behind the net, stuff like that. So you like to see that from a junior player, because it's just one other element that you already know is in his toolbox, and I think this is something that's becoming a theme in this draft class already, is guys with a high floor, and his two-way ability here combined with his skating ability, they lend itself to him having a very, very high floor. Because again, not every player that has top six offensive upside reaches that, and if a guy doesn't for one reason or other, it's nice to know that there's a fallback there as a middle six or bottom six option with strong two-way play. Very consistent effort level for me on both sides of the puck. I had no issues with him in this regard whatsoever. Not much of a physical element to his game, really. That's something that I didn't love. That's maybe my biggest criticism for him is he's not necessarily the most physical player, but he is slight. He's 6'2" and 170 pounds, so he's fairly lanky still. So he's going to need to add some weight and some strength here to be able to handle that. But he has the frame to put the weight on. I'm not really worried about it, but that's something that maybe he could add as an element to his game as the physical maturity comes. For me, as of right now, this is a guy who's a top 20 pick from everything that I've seen, and I've watched 3 or 4 of their games so far this year. Bona fide first rounder for me already. It's just a matter of where he goes in that first round, and I do like him inside of my top 20 as of right now. And Boyce, I'll get your thoughts on him as well.
Well, he fascinates me as a prospect because of where he plays, he's not going to put up the massive numbers that maybe would warrant, a higher pick. Brantford tends to trap a lot, so that, I think that kind of hinders a lot of their offense. They don't score a lot, and they don't try to score a lot. So
they play to their rink a little bit, right?
Yeah, their rinks, they play in a smaller rink too. They have a very small neutral zone in their rink, so that's part of it. But to counter that, we're talking about his passing and playmaking. Remember, he's making a lot of these plays in a smaller ice surface, so he doesn't have much room in the neutral zone. He's making a lot of these decisions in a tighter space than he's supposed to be making them in, and he's doing them successfully.
At speed.
At speed. So I would call him more of a passer than a playmaker per se. I mean, he's really good at moving the puck, especially in the rush. I mean, he makes really good decisions in the offensive zone too, but I think that's his best skill. Is when he's coming out of his own end, making that good pass just to enter the zone, getting his teammate at speed or in a good position to create another opportunity. So I really like that skill. He was, again, we've seen him live a couple times too.
I thought he was excellent at the Hlinka, despite not putting up many
Yeah.
points.
I mean, he headbands the puck. He finds his guy. Like, he makes good plays. The coaches are going to be happy with the plays he makes. He rarely turns it over. I mean,
He's a very good transition player.
Well, we've talked about a lot of guys, previously who don't have this skill set, who kind of just fire the puck into skates or, get picked off a lot. He doesn't. And I think, he doesn't have the point totals of those guys, but I think that probably plays a little bit more at the next level, especially with a team that, again, he's also a guy, his point totals could actually go up playing with better guys. I think that's very possible.
And that's it, right? He can't, if you're the guy making the pass, you can't make the pass and score the goal. So if guys aren't, he can make the best passes and the best plays in the world. If the puck's not going in the net, he's not getting points on them.
Well, if this again, the NHL is a different beast, right? But he can play in tight spaces and make good decisions. If he's going to make good decisions, at speed, under pressure in the NHL to other NHL players, they're going to put the puck in the net more. Like, that's just what's going to happen. So, I mean, he's fascinating to me though, because, again, I do wish he would shoot the puck more like that. Because I think that would even open him up a lot more offensively. Because I know goalies are definitely, no, he's not going to shoot the puck. I mean, and they know, like, again, they'll have the book on him, right? Like, he's probably not going to shoot, and they're aware of that. So,
well, and that's one of the things that I mentioned, right? He will need to make himself more of a shooting threat, I think, than he currently is. And he's so good with the puck that at the junior level it's okay. But like you said, NHL guys are too good for it.
yeah.
So that's something for him to work on. But I'm really intrigued by his offensive upside. I do think there's untapped potential here.
Yeah, there's definitely upside. There's more than we've seen.
I think so.
Yeah. The other thing is, I was surprised he was 6'2". Like, that actually kind of surprised me because he doesn't really look like a big guy out there.
He's lanky, right?
Yeah. So, I mean,
and I think he's grown a bit in the last couple of years as well.
I mean, that's encouraging because, again, we talked about, maybe strength is a bit of an issue. I mean, he struggles in the face-off dot. Like, even looking at his, statistics for the year, I mean, he's losing more draws per night than winning. So, I mean, again, that would be something that would come with strength. I mean, he might have more confidence in his shot if he gets stronger too. And again, that would help. That would help him. Yeah, that would help him. And he has a body where that shouldn't hinder his ability to do other things. Like, I think that should.
He's got the frame
very naturally. Yeah, I think it's very natural. Now, one more thing before we move on. The other thing I did like about his passing or his playmaking was he was kind of pretty comfortable. You talked about he was very comfortable at doing it at speed. He was also very comfortable doing it slowing down.
Yep.
And again, that when you have a diversity of kind of ways to break down a play or a situation, especially at the NHL level, I mean, that will help you depending on how the other team's playing you. I mean, he isn't just, one trick pony. He would have multiple things that he could do and that he's comfortable with. And I thought that was also encouraging as well. Again, that, if something's not working, he can kind of change it up and throw kind of a curveball at the other team. I mean, he's not just going to curl back every time. He can do something different.
I thought he's been pretty creative in terms of his playmaking. I know you say he's more of a passer, and he is, because he's, like I said, he's very deliberate with how he attacks the defense. But I don't know. To me, is it not being creative if you have, if you enter the blue line and you have five different moves that you can go to,
No, that is like it is. It's very like I like that for him. I mean, he could probably again. He's not getting the finishes off the guys, so that's kind of why what you'd be looking for is to make sure he's putting guys in those types of spots. I mean, he's not Misa as a playmaker. I don't think he's Misa as a playmaker right now.
Well, no,
we're not comparing them, but you're not comparing them.
Yes, like okay,
you know what I mean, though, right? Like it's.
No, I don't think we're looking at a
90-point
player in the NHL.
Yeah, but he's good, and there's more here than we've seen. Like there's definitely because he can do again. What if he played on? Again, he's playing for Brantford. So what if he played for another team that was more offensive?
Yeah,
I mean, he would probably have better numbers. I mean, I would just like it's
no for sure. I agree completely. I agree completely. That I do think there's more offensive upside than we've seen. For me, I don't see anything in terms of his skill set. I don't see any reason why he couldn't be a top 6 center.
Yeah, he could play on someone's second line. He'd be totally happy, or even on a. What if you have like 2 real good wingers who can score? Like that's perfect centerman for them.
Yeah, and I think he'll be able to play in pretty much any situation too, eventually, anyways.
Yeah. So like I like him, and I will probably rank him fairly high, actually. But again, there's I think there's higher upside with him than some of the other guys, in this A category.
I agree with that completely. I could see him getting more points in the NHL level than Spence.
Yeah. Like I could too.
Or similar anyways.
Different players, but like
way different. For sure, different players.
But yeah, like there's a lot of kind of anyway, there's a lot of kind of high floor, kind of lower ceiling type guys. I think he has a higher ceiling than some of the guys we'll be looking at. We have looked at and be looking at kind of the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and especially as far as a guy who's already a pretty good two-way player. I do like his offensive upside relative to his two-way ability, especially.
Yeah, no, he's not a hole defensively. Like he's quite good. And I think again, speaking like we did with Fiddler, I think you can fix some of these or improve, maybe not fix, but you can improve some of the things we're worried about. I think that's that can be done. And again, he's a smart player. So, I mean, he'll adapt and he's going to look,
and watch the difference in his shot power when he goes from 170 to 190 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's going to like some of those things will go hand in hand. Like as he adds weight and strength, his shot's naturally going to become more dangerous.
And then in turn, he'll naturally use it more. Like right. I think that would be
exactly.
That's what you're kind of looking for, right? Have more confidence that I can score on the shot. And that's going to leave him more. That's going to leave him more passing opportunities, and more points.
Exactly right. You're using one to open up the other.
Yeah.
So that's Jake O'Brien, someone that we're obviously both pretty big fans of. Certainly inside my top 20 as of right now, and I have a sneaky suspicion that he's inside of Darren's top 20 as of right now as well. So with that, let's go south of the border and look at another defenseman from the United States playing in the NCAA right now. And Darren, take it away.
All right, so we're going to look at Logan Hensler. So he goes to the University of Wisconsin, and he's a late 2006 birthday. So again, fitting into that theme, he's an older player for this draft. Another right-hand shooting defenseman, 6'2", 196 pounds. So again, pretty solid size. Right now, he's just played 8 games with Wisconsin. He only has 2 assists. So again, he's very young for this level that he is playing in. So we'll start with his positives. It's very easy to see kind of when you view him what his positive traits are. This guy's a great skater. Like he moves very easily. It's very shifty. His great balance. His edge work is really good. It looks pretty, I guess would be the way I would say it. I mean, he can do everything kind of, in terms of skating really well. He walks the line well. He's very efficient. He's excellent in that regard. He works pretty hard while he's out there. I think he's always flying around. When you kind of view him versus some of these other guys, there's a lot of guys taking it, maybe taking it easy to conserve some energy. He's flying around the entire game. I really enjoyed that part about him. And the other part about him too was he makes a very, very good. He's very good at breaking out the puck. So again, we're talking about a right-hand shot defenseman who's 6'2" and can move really well and pass the puck. Get it moving from his zone very easily. These are high-end skills that people will like, or other NHL teams will like as well. In terms of his other skills, his shooting's not great. Again, I don't think he's going to beat many goaltenders just, with his shot and that. He has kind of figured out that maybe a low wrist shot from the point, trying to get tips and stuff like that, might be more beneficial to him. Again, it didn't look like he wanted to shoot the puck a lot either, in terms of, taking one-timers and stuff like that. But again, we will hopefully be able to watch him more, and maybe that'll develop. He has pretty good hands for a defenseman. He can make guys miss, but he's not going to, actively, try and dangle a lot of guys. He's going to just try and make that, nice simple breakout pass, that simple pass in the offensive zone. He's not really going to take a lot of risks. He receives passes nicely. He has very soft hands for a defenseman. I mean, he made a lot of plays, whether the pass wasn't directly, on his stick, he could compensate and, make that play pretty well. Again, his passing in the defensive zone is quite good. Again, in the offensive zone, he's not, making risky seam passes or anything. He's kind of just, making the simple pass there. So maybe we'd like to see a little bit more, attempt at, driving offense. He also doesn't really join the rush as much as you would think he should with his ability to skate. Usually a lot of times these guys who can skate, you see them kind of joining the rush at will. And it's not really, I guess it's not really what he's looking to do. That's not what he's comfortable with, I guess, anyway, at this point. His D zone isn't bad. I think it's pretty good, actually. He's in good position most of the time. He's not floating around. He's not getting out of position, willing to use his partner. If there is any flaw, it's sometimes he, gets caught just, being a little too aggressive and, cutting off a breakout pass or something like that. That's usually how he gets burned. But if he does get burned, he's quick enough to, get back and, alleviate the play. He has the ability to skate to fix any mistakes he makes. He did lose his gaps a little bit more in the college games versus the under 18 games. But again, he's young at the level that he's playing at. And I actually thought he's played pretty well. I think his stats are a little bit misleading at that level right now. Wisconsin can't score, and in the games that I've viewed, his partners kind of struggled a little bit, which is why I believe he's -6, but I don't necessarily think it was on him a lot of the time. I think he was trying to make up for a mistake that his partner made. In terms of the major issue, I would see he kind of does avoid battles. He'll take hits to make plays, but he gets muscled around. Again, especially at the college level, he's definitely getting knocked down a lot just from, taking hard hits in that. And he can get a little, I don't want to say panicky, but he knows a hit's coming. It kind of changes the way the play he's going to make. Now, the unfortunate thing is too, he just got hurt his last game. So I don't know how long he's going to be out, which is disappointing because I was really interested to see if the offense could, maybe come, or we could see it, I guess, more as the year went on, especially at a team like Wisconsin who's kind of dying for scoring. But overall, I thought his game was pretty good. I mean, I really like how he can skate. He isn't small. He's right-handed. I think he can gain strength, which would help him with contact. And I think that would, just make him a substantially better player. And I also think there's untapped kind of offensive upside with him. Like, he should have more points or should be able to get more offense than he does. But even if he doesn't, and even if, he's just, a guy that's, like a 30-point defenseman, he's very valuable. I think I like him. I think teams are going to jump very high for him. Strictly because of his skating. I mean, I haven't seen a guy who can skate like this in this draft yet. And again, when his main issue is strength, I think teams are, and he's 6'2". I think teams are willing to take a gamble on that, kind of translating that we can, get him stronger, and that'll just make him a better player. From what I saw, I mean, again, different types, different players at the time, but you think of a guy like Jay Bouwmeester, right? When he played in the NHL, it's this guy who could fly around the ice. Everyone thought, like, why isn't this guy putting up 60 points as a defenseman? But he'd put up 30 points every year. He was on Team Canada. He's part of winning teams. Like, that's just kind of, what he was. And that's a really, really good NHL defenseman. So I think this guy's upside's quite high, and I would not be shocked. I think he's definitely going top 10, and I wouldn't be shocked if someone jumped up for him to go top 5. But again, if he's hurt, that might kind of change things. But like, there's some high end potential here that some teams they won't be able to turn that down. So I don't know what you saw, but that's this is a very interesting player.
Yeah, I completely agree with that assessment. Really, really top to bottom. I especially think that I do think there's more. I mean, I know he doesn't have many points this year, but I do think that there's more offensive upside there. I think there's more potential there, and honestly, he could be one of those guys where you have the ability to put up more points, but just because you choose to play such a responsible two-way game, you maybe don't put up as many points as you quote unquote could. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all, because a lot of guys actually later in their careers have to learn to give up some points to play a better two-way game and learn how to play winning hockey, which I think there's already a lot of winning hockey elements to his game. And you said it yourself, someone's gonna jump very high for this guy because of his combination of his size and his skating ability and his ability to make the first pass and break out of the zone. Are very, very, very strong, like very, very strong. I think he's one of the better transition defensemen available. And I do think he's probably, from what I've seen, he's probably the top right-handed puck mover that I've seen this year.
He's definitely the best puck mover I've seen as of yet.
Of the
right-handers, yeah. Of the right-handers, yeah.
Schaefer's on a whole other planet.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll talk about him, I think, in an upcoming episode. But what's interesting about Hensler too? Sorry, I believe he's -7 actually right now. So again, speaking of, again, they're struggling.
But they're not even scoring 2 goals a game.
No, but his again, we're not always going to be underlying stats guys. I mean, we're a lot of eye tests, but his underlying numbers are actually quite good. I mean, his Corsi's relative are pretty good. I mean, he's up every game. He seems to be, I think they've played, how many games they played? 8. I think 6 of them are over 60%. So I mean,
I see him when I watch them. I see him pushing the play up offensively and tilting the ice a little bit in favor of his team a lot more than I see them getting hemmed in their own end.
Exactly. I mean, like, the point is the numbers look better than, like, the underlying numbers look better than his actual numbers look. I mean, it looks like when he's on the ice, his team is controlling play, and the eye test just does kind of say that when he has the puck, he is creating good things. Now, as I said, the games I watched, it looked like his partner was struggling a lot more than he was, in these situations that led to chances. It wasn't so much him making a gigantic mistake.
I agree
Yeah.
completely. I don't think there was too many times that he was the direct result of a goal against.
No, exactly. I think he was trying to, he got caught in a situation where he was trying to, fix a problem that happened somewhere else on the ice. But yeah, like again, the other part that happened too is he did get hit and out muscled a couple times. So I mean, I
Yeah, but
think
he's playing university. He's gonna
yeah, like it's fixable. I mean,
like
this and I'll get better at it.
half those teams are men, right? They're
Yeah.
21, 22, 23, not pretty damn close to men anyways, right? They should be a lot stronger, but yes, he is going to have to work on that because you're not going to be able to have much success if you get out muscled all the time. But he's not playing against 16, 17-year-olds. He's
No.
going to get out muscled here from time to time.
And not even that, he's actually looked pretty good from the first game from game 1 to I guess they're at 8. I guess the last game was his 8th game. He's still he's jumped in and he hasn't looked, deer in headlights playing these opponents. Like they're playing
I
good teams.
thought he's had a lot of confidence.
Yeah, they're playing good teams. He's played very confidently. He's not the game doesn't look too fast for him. So it's yeah, like I think he's, again, some people might look at his numbers and kind of scoff, like, oh, like this guy, like he's not a top 10 pick. You kind of got to look at what he's actually doing.
Well, when's the last time there wasn't a righty picked in the top 10? I don't know when.
Yeah.
But I don't know when, but I know like there's no way it happens often, right? And especially now with it being very, very talked about, very, very talked about all the time by everybody, how important finding a right-hand D is. So like one of them is like there's going to be a right-hand D in the top 10. So who is it? And
unless
for me right now,
this injury is terrible, like unless this injury is literally debilitating, I don't see how he drops out of the top 10.
No, he'd have to miss
And
most of the year.
There's we're worried he won't be able to play. Like I really don't see how that would. I don't see how he can pass that up.
No, I agree. Even if the offensive totals don't come, the toolkit, the toolkit and the toolbox are just so impressive that like someone's going to take the guy, right? Like look at last year. You had those 6 unbelievable defensemen last year, and who are the first 3 gone? Righty.
Yeah.
Were the 3 righties the 3 best? Maybe we don't know.
I don't think they were, but
no, right, and that's a separate debate that we can have. But the positional scarcity made a huge difference, and I think it will for this guy too.
Like I guess I'll go back to this. Say I'm not saying that they're going to be this bad again. Say the Sens pick 8th. Like, are they really going to pass on this guy?
Depends who's there, but probably not.
No, like they need a right-hand shot defenseman. Like they still need them. I don't like that's the point. I don't like, and there's other teams that will need that hole. And I don't, and like, no. I don't see the depth of forwards for them to kind of pass on that, I guess would be what I would say about that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's got a plug and play skill set in almost any top 4 in the league. So someone's going to take this guy. He's a hell of a prospect, and hopefully, I mean, we're recording this at a point in time where there's no injury report out yet. By the time it's released, we'll probably have a better update. But as of right this second, we're not sure the severity. So hopefully it's not bad, and he can come back soon, because I would like to see how his offensive game develops over the second half of the year. There's one more guy that we'd like to cover today, and someone we've been casually talking about without really featuring specifically yet. But this is a guy that is getting a ton of talk at the very, very, very top of the draft here. And we're going to go back to the OHL and focus on Porter Martone. So we got Porter Martone, the 6'3", 208-pound right winger. Oh my God, what a beast for the Brampton Steelheads. He's an astounding 16 goals and 32 points in just 14 games to start the year, and he has been borderline dominant, like just absolutely dominant sometimes. Power forward style and a pretty rare breed in terms of the size and skill combination. You really don't see it that often. I think that's what are making a ton of people really excited about this guy, despite the fact that he is a winger rather than a centerman. Now his offensive skill set and offensive upside are extremely high end. His hands are just absolutely pure filth. Some of the best hands in this draft class, regardless of size. And it's even more impressive that he's doing it at 6'3" and over 200 pounds as an 18-year-old. His shot is both quick and heavy. He has a goal scorer's shot when he gets a hold of it. There's no doubt about it. He's super dangerous, and he is not afraid to use it. He's not a guy that's going to be passing up shooting opportunities. Despite that, he's probably equally good, maybe even better, as a playmaker and a distributor of the puck. His offensive vision, is absolutely fantastic. It's amongst the best in the draft class, and it's something that it's one of the things that makes him as dangerous as he is. It's one of his best assets, really, is his ability to read the play in the offensive zone and he slows the play down. He slows the play down so well, and he commands guys to play a little slower, and he finds ways to use that to open up so many options for himself, and he does it so consistently. He identifies open guys super well. He baits defenders to open up lanes. He makes really quick decisions with his passes. You don't see him overthinking it too much. He's a fantastic playmaker through and through. Really strong in the dirty areas of the game along the boards. He's obviously hard to handle and hard to knock off the puck, especially for a lot of junior guys who will never see 200 pounds in their life, let alone as teenagers, right? So he's extremely impressive in that regard. However, that's one of those things that is a little harder to project, because when you're so physically mature and dominant against other teenagers, that doesn't always translate into the same level of dominance once you're playing against guys who are all that big. So that's something to keep an eye on, because you do see sometimes bigger guys. It's like, oh, well, this guy looks so high end when he was younger. What happened? And a lot of times they lose their size and strength advantage over guys at the NHL level. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Not saying that's going to be the case with this player, because I think his brain is so good, and his hands and his puck skills are so good. But again, he's not going to be able to bully guys in the NHL level the same way he does in junior. But I mean, he is great at it at this level. Competes really well for the most part. When he gets after it physically, he's super impressive. That said, I would like to see him do it a little more consistently, shift to shift, rather than kind of turning it on and off. But I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. He seems like a pretty competitive guy for the most part, and most shifts here. Defensively, he's fine. I really don't have a ton of comments on his defensive game. Not much praise or criticism for him in this area. It's above average for a junior winger. He has got a very good stick, and he's very good at turning pucks over. But at the end of the day, he's an offensive driver, and that's kind of what he's doing most of the time. I mean, it's hard to become a great defender when you always have the puck on your stick and you're always pushing the play offensively. So he doesn't spend a ton of time in his defensive zone, but I don't think that's a bad thing in this situation. Like I said, very good brain for the game. I think he's got the brain in the sense to play in any situation, at least at the junior level. I'm not sure I see the quickness or the foot speed that I'd really like to see for a PK in the NHL. But I mean, that's a bit of a personal preference. I prefer guys who have really quick feet, and I prefer very aggressive PK. But I'm not dead set on this, because I could very easily seeing a team, because of his playmaking and how good his stick is and his physical attributes. I could see a team who thinks that he would fit really well on a PK. Skating. Now this is where I do have some questions here. He's a very strong skater. He's very strong on his feet. You're not going to knock him around. He's got very good balance, but he's not quick. He's certainly not quick, and he's definitely not the fastest. So that's kind of my main concern here with him, and that's one thing that goes almost hand in hand a little bit with the size advantage that he has, that he may lose a little bit at the NHL level. He's able to make up for his skating a little bit right now because of his size and his strength, and honestly his hands and his brain and his ability to slow the offensive play down a little bit when he has the puck on his stick. But if those equal out a little bit, then at the next level, that would be the one thing for me that would give me pause if we're talking about him as a top 3 pick, which is what we're going to be debating here. I think for a good chunk of the season is whether he fits, where he fits. I know he does fit in that top group, but exactly where he slots in that top group. So that would be the one thing, because I don't love his quickness, but at the same time, he's already 6'3", he's already over 200 pounds. So as much as the skating could be a bit of an issue that might cap his upside a little bit, it could go the other way too, where the skating improves and you get a half step quicker and you get a half second quicker with your top speed, and that becomes a little bit more of an asset for you. While then all of a sudden you're really opening up yourself to some really, really serious high end upside with this guy. So I don't want to say it's necessarily a huge concern for me at the moment, but it is something to be mindful of with him. I think as the season progresses, can we see a step there in the quickness department? Look, if he puts us all together, we're looking at a very rare, almost superstar power forward type of player that's going to be an absolute nightmare to handle for guys, and who can beat you probably a very wide variety of ways. So there's a lot to like about this player. I don't know. I've seen some talk about him challenging for first overall. Even I don't know that I've seen a first overall pick yet, but he's, after that it's wide open. And there's going to be one or two really good players that falls out of the top 5. It's going to be hard for a team to pass on this combination of what he brings to the table, especially at the clip that he's producing at right now. Like he's over 2 points a game. And if he keeps that up, like how would you not take that in the top anything? How would you pass that up at all?
Well, it's the skating, like you just talked about it. That's, again, if he gains a step, he's still an average skater, right? Like he's a below average skater right now, I would say.
Yes.
And that's, teams do value that. So I think that does take him kind of out of the top 3 right now. And again, he's going to put up gaudy point totals. He's also playing with some really good line mates. That also is helpful on a pretty good OHL team. But again, if he can improve his skating to average, I think, as you said, and that is doable, guys can improve skating. That's happened in the past.
Well, that's one thing that can really be improved with because skating is so technique based, right? And that is one thing that guys can improve if they really focus on it.
So I'm going to give you an example. This is from a while ago. But like Corey Perry wasn't a great skater when he was.
How did I know?
He wasn't a great skater his draft year, and I think he dropped in the draft because of that.
Big time.
But he got better, and he was never a great skater, but he was, became a decent skater.
He was a good enough skater to win an NHL MVP.
Exactly.
Award.
So that would be what you're hoping for with him, that he can improve his skating, and then the rest of that skill set will go with him. But I would have concerns about the skating. That would be, and I think other teams, some teams there, especially in that slot, would probably have concerns there too. especially with, a top 3 pick. I think that would be, you're looking for guys with less concerns there. But I mean, you can't really argue with the numbers he's putting up. I mean, what's he, over 2 points a game right now? I mean, like,
Yeah, 32 points in 14 games.
Like, that's obscene. Like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
So, I mean, and he's big, and I mean, size is kind of coming back with a lot of these teams now. Now, I will puts a little bit of hesitation. His shooting percentage right now is like 35%. He's not going to score at this pace, literally, because he doesn't shoot the puck enough. So
they're going in though.
Yeah, but 35% is a lot. Like, that's
it is.
So, I mean, again, that's not going to be a huge drop off. I mean, he's still going to, but I mean, if we're looking for a hesitation, this is going to keep up. That might be one, maybe why it's not totally going to keep up to that record. Cause again, he'd be on pace for 130 some points, 120 some points right now.
Now, and this is a debate, and I don't want to get sucked into it here right now, because we're going to get sucked into it for half an hour if we start. But just on the age, there's two things in the OHL. I mean, the top OHL forwards, I think it's pretty clearly Martone and Misa, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you balance? There's two things that Misa has going for him uncontested over Martone, and that's the fact that he's younger and the fact that he's a centerman. Now, if you're a team, how are you balancing those two things versus the projectability and the rare combination of the size and skill that Martone has versus maybe the more slighter Misa?
Misa's a lot better skater. I think that's just, I mean, I think there's a little more safety. I think teams kind of value that a little more safely if guys can skate than, Misa's not even that small though. He's 6'1". It's not like he's, I think that argument again might be more,
but he's not 210
with Hagens than it would be with Misa, right? Like, I don't think Misa's small.
No, he's not.
So, I mean,
but he's not a power forward.
No, but he's, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's tough. I mean, to me, the skating's the difference to me. Like that, and obviously the positional, point you make, and the years.
I don't necessarily see a ton of difference in their offensive upside.
I think Misa drives play more than him, too.
I think so too. I think, but like, I don't think. I'll put it this way: if they end up like within 10 points of each other, you take the guy who's tougher to play against.
Could I argue that Misa's harder to play against because he's so fast?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. For sure. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun like debating these two guys, especially throughout the year. But man, they're both just like they bring such different things to the table, but they're both so good at what they do.
Well, they're great. They're great OHL players, but yeah, like it's again.
I think they're both going to be pretty damn good pros too.
Yeah, I mean they're going to probably both be top 5 picks. Let's be honest. Like, I think Martone's probably still going to be a top 5 pick. I don't know if I would pick him second. That would be. I mean,
well, we're gonna reveal probably. Yeah. I'd say probably in two more episodes we'll do maybe one or two more, and then we'll probably have our first list put out. Certainly before the month is over, we'll be putting out our initial list, and I'm looking forward. And I think we're gonna do it in a way that's going to be entertaining as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But I agree with you. It's going to be very, very, very hard for teams to let him slip outside the top 5. For me right now, he's solidly within it. But God, there's 4 guys really that I think the more I watch, the more convinced I am that this is a wide open race for first overall.
Well, it's dependent probably on scouting staff and what they're comfortable with.
Well, that's wide open.
A lot of these scouting staffs are going to have, they're going to have different skills that they value or different types of guys that they value, and that's who they're going to take. It's going to be really interesting to see that. But again, I'm just going to leave you on this note. Like, why can't Hensler be in the top 5? Like, why Why can't
Well,
why can't that right hand defenseman go over one? Maybe get drafted above him. Like very.
well,
possible.
I think he could. And like we were talking about, I mean, find me the last draft that doesn't have a right-handed D drafted very, very high. I'll wait. Unless there's just not a good one available. But even when there's not a guy that's like maybe as highly touted as some guys that get picked out from, they get picked higher because there's so few of them. So I think we've featured a couple guys who are going to be very, very high picks this year. And that's a good point to leave it for right now. And we're hopefully going to have another episode out later this week. We're hoping to get 2 done this week. So we're going to feature a few more guys that are in the conversation for the very top of that draft. And then we're going to get to building some lists and really having some more debate focused episodes, which I think are going to be a lot of fun. So Boyce, thanks for your work as always. It was great listening to your insights today. And we'll leave you guys with that, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.